if you are on any antacid medications like proton pump inhibitors, so that's like your omeprazole, your pantoprazole, um, uh, even ranitidine and famotidine, things like that, Prilosec, all of that stuff is actually very problematic. We used to, like back when I was in residency and learning, medicine, that was just something that I would just give to pretty much everybody that had any kind of like pain in this area. It was like, well, let's just try this. And we used to just put people on it and keep people on it for life. Well, now, even in the conventional medicine world, it is being recognized as a huge problem. People who are on these medications long term have been shown to actually develop a lot of downstream problems like gut issues, pneumonia, thinning of your bones, osteoporosis type stuff. And the reason is because in your stomach, you need to have that acid in order to digest and break down your food appropriately. If your food is not broken down and digested fully in your stomach, you start over time to miss out on a lot of those micronutrients that you're not getting because it's not being broken down fully. And so over time you become nutrient deficient, which is what leads to a lot of problems. The other issue is that proteins especially are meant to be fully broken down in your stomach. If the proteins, if your stomach acid is low, then because it's being suppressed, then you're not able to fully break down those proteins. Those proteins are then going to be passing to downstream, and they're going to cause a lot of issues. One, in your small intestine, they can feed the bacteria that are the flora that are growing in there, which can then lead to overgrowth of it's a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is what that's called, which can lead to a lot of bloating and gut issues. What also can happen is those proteins then are passed intact down to your the rest of your gut, into your large intestine and stuff, where you may have leaky gut. And if you have leaky gut, then these proteins, which first of all are not meant to be there because they're supposed to be fully broken down in your stomach, they're passing intact down to your gut. And if you have leaky gut, remember 70% of your immune system is in your gut. So your immune system is seeing these proteins and it's like, oh, what is this? And it's reacting to these proteins. Well, the problem with that is a lot of those proteins look like self. So your body starts mounting antibodies and an immune response against these proteins. And then you end up with autoimmune disorders, right? Because these proteins look like self. And so you're actually creating antibodies against yourself. And it's been shown that there's a connection between that and autoimmune disorders. So proton pump inhibitors long-term are not okay. Sometimes I will prescribe them as a diagnostic tool. If I'm not really sure what's going on with somebody, I'll be like, let's try this for 2 weeks. And if your symptoms get better, we know what we're dealing with, right? But it is not meant to be something that you're on long-term. I know that there are certain instances where people are more at risk, if you have a stomach ulcer or a recent GI bleed or, something like that a specialist has said that you need to be on this medication, then that is something that you need to be on. But the majority of people that are on these medications really don't need to be. And the reason why they're needing them is because once you've been on them a long time, you actually start retraining your body, and you start to your body is like trying to overcome, because it's like, I need this acid in order to digest this food. So it starts trying to produce more acid to overcome that. So people can sometimes feel like, if they try to stop it, they're like, oh my gosh, I have terrible symptoms. And so, but the other thing is like, people are treating it as if like I always do an example. I'm like, if you burn your hand, do you scratch it or dump lemon juice on it or poke at it? Like, no, you cover it up, put a bandage on it, you leave it alone. Once it's finally healed, then you can scratch it. And it's, maybe you don't scratch too much because you might have a problem, but once it's healed, then it's okay. Well, and if you do, like, do you scratch it and then just take a big ibuprofen so that you don't have the pain? No, that would be stupid, right? So it's the same with your gut health. People who have an inflamed gut, they've got heartburn, GERD, gastritis, whatever. it's like there's a burn in their gut. It needs to be able to heal. Okay. It doesn't mean like, oh, I'm going to go eat my Mexican food and I'm just going to take double on my omeprazole so I don't have symptoms, right? Because that's like we talked about the burn in your hand, that's kind of ridiculous to think about it. So if you think of you've got a burn on your guts, you got to let it heal. You got to get those foods out that are causing irritation. And there's your classic foods that are well known, like your Mexican food, your Italian red saucy foods, alcohol, chocolate, coffee, if you Google it, you're going to get a list of foods. But, I do have patients who are like, I've done all of that and I'm still having symptoms. Well, then maybe it's gluten, maybe it's dairy, maybe it's something that your body it causes inflammation when you eat it. So that's where an elimination diet can also help you figure that out. But I've had a lot of success with people being able to make those changes and then get off of their medication. You cannot just stop your medication though, because like I said, your body is trying to overproduce because it needs that acid. So if you just take the medication away, you are going to have really bad symptoms. And I've had that a lot with people. You really have to, if you've been on them a while, you have to very slowly wean off of it. And it depends on your symptoms, it depends on how long you've been on them, depends on how much you're taking of what medication. But at Rhea Hope, we do have protocols for that. And we help our patients gradually wean off of those medications in a safe, healthy way. But it is important to try to get off those medications if possible.